Well, hello internet type people. This is John with Ozarks Backroads with you here today. We've got a cool project going on here in the shop on the Versys 1000. We got our tank covered up with a blanket here, but we're going to be changing the handlebar on this thing today. And kind of a little project. I thought you might want to come along. Some people might be having some of the issues I have had with the stock bar, so we'll see if this resolves any of them. This bar I got it from Holeshot Performance, and it's got about 1.5 inches more rise in the bar, and you can see I've got the bar pretty much in line with the center of this bar here, but you can see how much higher it rises here on the end. And the main thing with this bar is the sweep. The bars are turned back, the ends are turned back towards the rider, and what I'm having trouble with is my right wrist on the throttle. These straight bars, or the lack of sweep in these stock bars, is jamming the bar into the web of my hand there between my thumb and index finger, and it puts my hand to sleep and hurts my wrists, and my thumb goes to sleep. And it's just because of the stock bar, the lack of sweep in the bar. They're too straight across, and they're also too far forward. Even with the rocks riser, the 1 3/4 riser, they're still too far forward. So this sweep will pull the bars back quite a bit, that and the rise, and then it should align my wrist a lot better and not jam the bar into the web of my hand. So I'm told it will resolve my issues. We'll see about that. So I think the first thing we're going to do is get these out of the way for now. Of course, everything has to come off here. These hand guards are held on. Right here is the bracket. Let me get back where we can see. Right here is the bracket that mounts the turn signal and the clutch lever and the brake on the other side. But I'll take these 2 bolts off here and then off the end here, and that'll release the hand guards here. And it'll also take off the mirror and the clutch lever assembly. So I can lay that down. The guard will be out of the way, and then we'll remove the switch housing off of it here. This bolt here will take off this bar weight as well once the guard's off. And then on this bar I'll have to cut this grip off because I need my throttle tube. I'll probably just leave the grip on the bar on the other side, just unplug it. I've got a new set of Oxford heated grips, so I can just plug them in and leave the controller and everything and the wiring the way it is. So I'll go ahead and get these removed, and then we'll get back and see where we go from there. All right, we got those off. Pretty simple. 2 screws there and 1 on the end on both sides. That brought all that hardware off. And that leaves our switch housings on both sides and the throttle control over there. Both of these are 2 screws from the back side here, 2 Phillips headed screws. Right there you can kind of see 1 here and 1 down here. Same way on the other side. 2 screws here. Where are we at? Yep, 2 screws on the back side of this throttle housing here, and then we'll have to take the cables off of the throttle tube here. But we'll show you that when we get there. So I'll get those off, and then we'll see about this throttle tube. Well, we've got our switch housing off, and wouldn't you know it, both grips I was able to pull off. I didn't have to cut either one of them, and I already bought a new set of grips. So if I hadn't bought a set, I'd have had to cut both of them. It's just the way it goes. But anyhow, the cable housing over here on this side came apart in 2. The back came off of it and exposed this. Basically, you got the 2 cables, and they just slip into the housing here, into this tube. This one goes straight up and comes in on the top, and then the other one goes around the back side here And that's all there is to it. When this is on there, you slide this in and just hook the back one up, put it in place, and then this will be over like this, come straight up, and it'll go right in the top like that. And then slip the back housing back on and you're in business. So that's pretty simple. Pretty happy with that. So I'm going to take it off and clean this tube. It's got glue on it, and I'll re-glue the grip back on it, and probably won't hold again. All right, so now we're back to our bars. We'll go ahead and unbolt the bars. Well, we've got the switch housing off over here. Just 2 screws, comes off in 2 halves. I screwed it back together so it doesn't fall apart. We got the throttle housing off over here. Again, same 2 screws. So all we need to do now is pull these bars out of these risers, and then I'll take the risers off and get back to the original mounts, and we'll see about getting our new bars on here. We got our bars off, our old bar off, and our risers off, and we're ready to install this new bar or set it in place. And the new bar is the stock bar is a tapered bar. It has 1 1/8 inch diameter where it mounts into the onto the risers there, and then it tapers down to 7/8 on the ends where everything mounts, all your switch hardware and everything, the mirrors. The new bar I've got from Holeshot is it's just a 7/8 all the way through. It's not a tapered bar. So he's sent me some shims that go in here to make up the difference, and they're numbered. So we put a number 1 with the number 1, and the other side's numbered number 2. And I've already got them in place here in the saddles. So we'll set our bar in and then put our upper shim half in and then our cap on here. And we're just going to I'll just kind of put it where I think they should be, or it should be, and then just snug it because we'll have to move it around, I'm sure. Okay, I got my bar installed there. I just kind of loosely snugged up the clamp bolts there and centered the bar up and kind of pointed them back towards me. I turned the bar stop to stop, gave myself a couple of inches above the tank here, so my hardware, nothing hanging down, is going to hit my tank, and I may have to adjust that again a little bit later. But my grip slid on nice and snug for me, so I slid it back on there. And what I had to do here, this switch housing, the back side has got a pin right here, and there's a hole in the bar, and that locates the switch housing. So I had to hold it up here kind of where I wanted it, the switch housing to be. I kind of turned it where it faces towards the rider, kind of faces up just a little bit at me, and I held this in place where I thought I wanted it, and I used a center punch and put a little divot there where this pin right here on this back housing, this pinhole. I made a little divot in my bar, and right here, and drilled it to started with an 1/8 inch drill bit and then went to a 3/16, and that just fit the pin there. So that pin will fit into that hole and locate that, and we've got to do the same thing on the throttle cable side, so the housing doesn't move around when you're using the throttle. So that worked out pretty good. I'll go ahead and mount that back up. It's just the 2 screws through the back here, and put this on next to it with my mirror mount. We'll put this on next to it with the mirror mount on the other half, and kind of get that loosely in place. We'll probably have to adjust all this stuff, but so I'll do that, and then we'll go over here and see what we can do on the other side. Okay, I've got the other side went together great, just like it came apart. So I mounted that stuff up kind of loosely. I went ahead and slid my throttle tube in my grip here, so I can just slide it on and tell where it needs to be. This is the back cover on this side that has the pin in it that I have to drill. So basically what I did is I slid it on the tube where it's going to go. I ran the tube in like an 1/8 inch inside the end of the bar right here, clearance for that, and then I center punched where that nip. I can look right in here and see where that nipple's on the bar. I center punched it and drilled it, just like I did the other side, and I kind of tipped it back so that the switch housing is kind of facing up towards the rider's face rather than being straight. It makes the switches easier to see and a little easier to thumb. So that located that correctly. So now I just need to put the housing and the throttle cables in here and hook them back up on these two holes here. Put the housing together, and then the master cylinder, we'll mount it back up with the mirror, and we'll be getting close to getting on here and setting it all up and tightening everything down. Alright, we got the other side together. Everything kind of went back together like it came apart. Wasn't no big, there weren't any big surprises or anything. I don't know if you can see this, but look at this, how far back those bars go now. They really point and come back to the rider big time. And I got them aiming pretty much straight at my head. Tilted back straight at my face and my shoulders. So I think this is going to help. The sweep is definitely nice. I sat on it and kind of set everything up, set my mirrors and kind of lined everything up the way it was before, and turned my levers kind of down just a little bit, and I don't know, everything's cool. We're back on the original riser. I'm not using any other riser, and they're still closer to me than they were with the Rocks riser on there quite a bit and angled back at me. I think it's going to be pretty neat. The reach is a lot nicer. My arms aren't straight, they're kind of bent, just kind of a natural position, and when I lay my hand on the grip sitting on it, I'm not getting this business here. It's just like you just laid your hand down is what it feels like right there. It's just perfect angle. So we'll do a little cable management here, get some zip ties out, and do something with some of these cables and whatnot in here. Get some of this strapped up, and all my cables are nice and loose, and even my brake hose didn't get tight at full lock. So there's plenty of brake hose there. You can kind of see how the switch hardware, how far it is off of the tank at full lock. So there's quite a bit of room still left there. Alright, we'll get this all back together and do some cable management with some zip ties and take it for a ride. Get a proper first impression. Well, we're out on the Versys with these new Dale Walker Holeshot Performance handlebars. I've installed, and I gotta say, it's a pretty big improvement. The reach is a lot better. They're farther back towards me, and the sweep is so much nicer. I've not got a big cramp in my hand or anything. It's just kind of laying normal. So I think it's took care of the hand cramp. That was my major concern. And then the bars were low. I was having trouble with my back, and I don't think I'm gonna have too many more issues with that either. It's feeling pretty good.
I think Dale did a pretty good job on this. I'm gonna have to give him at least a 9 on the design and implementation here on his engineering. Yeah, this is much nicer. I'm sitting up straight. I don't have a big hump in my back. Well, if you want to check out these bars for yourself, you can look. You can watch the videos Dave's got up there at Holeshot Performance. He's got a couple of videos on the installation on the bars and on the. He's got a little kit that allows the use of the stock bar end weights here and the hand guards. That's what I used, and put everything back together just like it was. So you can check that out if you're interested, but I think it's pretty good investment. This is going to be a lot nicer. I angled the switches up kind of facing direct at my face. I kind of like that. You don't have to reach down here to get to the horn or the turn signals. It's just right straight. I think it's going to be a lot better. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me. Hope I didn't bore you too bad or get you too confused. But changing the bars wasn't a big deal, really. It's pretty simple. So come back and see me. We'll change something else on something else one of these days, or we'll go somewhere and do something. Or we might even stay home. You never know. See you later.